I record these intros before I record the review, and I feel like I'm going to use the word gorgeous a lot when talking about this episode, as well as this show, because oh my god, this episode looks good. So 12 episodes into Drifting Dragons, and I've yet to decide whether or not I'm going to just talk about this episode and talk about the series in general in a separate video, or if I'm just going to do this episode and my thoughts on the series quickly at the end, because I know it is the finale, and I'm not entirely sure yet, so I figured I'd just start talking and see what comes out and figure it out along the way. So here we go, guys, and that's the plan. So starting out this episode, it's their reunion, and I'm really happy about it, but it's wrought with just needless danger. Like, I don't okay, so like, it starts out on the ship, and they're worried about Takita, and their 48 hours is up, and they're like, you know what, we can't keep searching. The search is called off, guys. If we hear something, fine, but we can't do anything else. And then Takita is calling out to them, and sure enough, she's calling out to Mika because she finally realized that Mika's a superhuman with superhuman hearing, and she's calling out to him, and yeah, he hears her because he's a superhuman, and no one else has this magical ability that Mika has to like read the winds and like hear voices from miles off, and he hears her, and his plan to get her back is to just tie himself to the wing of this airship and tell her to jump at him, and he jumps at her, and it's a nice, great reunion. The music wells up, and I well up, seeing the scene, but I couldn't help but think, why though? Why? That just was needlessly dangerous for no reason. You knew where she was at that point. Why not hover to a safe location and then take the gyrocopter, auto gyro, whatever it was called, take that copter thing down to pick her up and then fly her back up? There was no need for that acrobatics, no need for that theatrics, and you just needlessly risked both of your lives again. And I didn't understand it, but I mean, it looked cool, so whatever. I just don't buy that. I don't know. Also, Jiro was just not going to let him off this hook this season. I don't get why. I really don't. I had no beef with Jiro anymore. But then in this episode, the first thing he says to Takita, the first thing he says as soon as he learns that she's safe is that oh, you have no idea how much trouble you caused us. Okay, jerk. She didn't ask to be thrown overboard and almost die and get a gash in her leg. I just did not like Giro this episode, and I guess I just don't like Giro in the show. I had no beef with him. None whatsoever. But he just had to ruin it. Last episode, he just had to stab me in the side, and I was like, okay, I guess I just don't like you, man. I'm sorry. That's just the way it's gonna be. But there's no rest for the weary, because as soon as Takita shows up, she's like, hey, guys, I need you to help me without asking any questions. But really, they can't ask one, where you got the baby dragon from or why you want to return it to the pod, even though you're a Draker. Obviously, Mika, true to form, wants to eat the thing, but whatever. She wants to return it. They're happy she's alive and she is part of the crew, so they're like, all right, if it's important to you, it's important to us. But on their way, tons of dragons start showing up. You have these other red ones, and then you have this giant stingray looking one that shows up in the sky, and it's very cool. It actually looks really buff for some reason. But here's the thing I don't understand, right? So is the Dragon Corridor a place or a phenomenon? Because in this episode, they talk about how oh, if there are this many dragons here, why do we have to go around searching for them at all? And someone else responds with, don't you know anything, idiot? I'm paraphrasing, of course. Don't you know anything, you foolish idiot? The Dragon Corridor is a phenomenon that happens years apart and suddenly, so no one can predict it. But you guys predicted it, right? You guys knew to come here this time of year, and you had said you had been planning it for years. So I don't know what to go. Is the Dragon Corridor a place, a phenomenon, both? Can one of you please explain it to me? Because I don't get it. I really don't. I thought I did in the last one. I thought I did in this one. But none of it adds up. But alright, the episode is set up. There's tons of dragons, all here for this volcano thing, like moths to the flame, they use that analogy. But the game is on, lads, because they have to hunt those dragons and they have to get the baby back to its pod. But honestly, my heart goes out to that poor helmsman who's probably been up for like 48 hours straight because she's needed to fly low so they could look for Takita. And that's like perilous, so she's probably been stressed and up for 48 hours, and I feel bad for her. And in this one, they're like, all right, we're hunting them now. Go. And, and the look on her face is just hilarious because obviously she's not in any frame of mind for this. And it was fun to see. And the dream team is back together this time around because Mika and Vanabelle go and take on that giant dragon. They don't kill it apparently, but it's nice to see them working together. I really do like those two. They're probably my favorite combo. Jiro goes with Takita off into the pod, and Jiro, I guess he's the only one who could fly the thing, so whatever. But like Mika and Vanabelle take on the giant thing. They're unable to kill it, but they do fall off of it because of this explosion. And Vanabelle has the ninja moves this time around, not Mika, because they fall off the dragon and she catches the rope they send off to them and saves his life. She saves his life twice in this episode, I think. Probably more than that, honestly, but only twice that I can remember. Either way, though, after that, Takita goes into the dragon's pod. She jumps in with the baby, and that whole sequence makes the show worth watching for me. Just how gorgeous it was. Like, oh my god, the way she just jumps out of the copter cycle thing and she jumps in and the pod like splashes like it's water, and I don't even know what it was. I assumed that bubble was like a force field or something, and maybe it is, but it seems to be made of like, what is it? I don't know. Like, this show does a really good job of not letting you forget that these dragons are great magical creatures. They're fantastical beasts. Like, no reference to the Harry Potter stuff. They're fantastical beasts, and they're magical and amazing, and she's in there, and the way it looks is gorgeous, and she returns the baby to like what I'm assuming is the queen or something. I don't know. It's just this giant thing with tendrils, and the whole sequence was really well done. Moving to me, like, it changes Takita, and it changed me, not like in any grandiose way like her, but it was a great sequence, and yeah, well worth the problems I have with the series. And that's kind of my thoughts on this series as a whole, now that we're getting into it, I suppose, because after that, they just sort of fly off into their next adventure. This show really is just like Takita's like origins. I don't want to say that, but it really is like her initiation to becoming a full-fledged Draker. Like, at the start of the show, she is the rookie, she is very green, and in this one, I'd say, yeah, she graduates to a full-fledged Draker. I think this is the moment where she realizes, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do with my life. I'm sharing the skies with these dragons, and that's who I am. I'm a Draker, and I really like that. And I think that's what the show is. It really is Takita coming into her own as a Draker. And as for all the faults I have with it, because I don't think the show is perfect, I do think in some areas it meanders around, especially with that like city arc and like Jiro's date thing. I don't really think that stuff is too strong, but I think the visuals and things like that pod scene, that fairy scene where she goes in there and sees that dragon, make it all worth it. Like, these things are gorgeous, magical creatures, and yes, they're endangered, and yes, I don't think they should be hunted. But these Drakers have an experience that no one else can have. They see these creatures up close and they witness magic in the world. And I have to respect that. And I do respect this show for that. And I don't regret watching it. Now, if you ask me whether or not I'm going to read the manga, because I believe there's a manga based off of this, probably not. So I don't know how much I love the show in that sense, in that case. But either way, it was worth watching, and this episode was great and amazing and gorgeous. I said in the intro that I was going to use the word gorgeous a lot, and then I didn't, so now I have to say gorgeous, so gorgeous. That's because that's what it was. And thanks for watching, guys. That's pretty much all I have to say on this episode, and Drifting Dragons in general. If you're asking me if I think this show is worth your time, I can't really say, because I'm not a good reviewer, and I'm not good at this job. But what I can say is that it was worth my time, and I did enjoy it. I don't regret watching it, and it is still, like I said in the first episode, the best attempt at a CGI anime I've seen. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but this show is, yeah, the best attempt I've seen. There are times I didn't even think about it, and that says a lot for me. But thanks for watching if you did, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. I know I did. Hope you enjoyed these reviews if you watched them. Either way, have a good day, guys. Be safe. Like and subscribe if you want. You don't have to. The same way you don't have to become a Draker and live your life in the skies, but why not choose that adventure? Why not go off? Well, I suppose you could have a moral objection to it as well as a moral objection to me, but that's not a point I want to make. Have a good day, guys. See you in the next show. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet, but we'll see, and be safe.